In the depths of Moria, beneath mountains older than memory, a wizard stood alone on a bridge of stone. Before him, a creature of shadow and flame, a demon from the ancient world. Behind him, 8 companions whose lives depended on what happened next. The wizard struck his staff against the stone and proclaimed his defiance, declaring himself a servant of the secret fire and wielder of the flame of Anor. He commanded the creature to retreat to the shadow, warning that its dark fire would not prevail against him. But who was this old man in gray robes to defy a Balrog of Morgoth? What power did he truly possess? And why, if he was so mighty, did he so rarely reveal his full strength? Today, we examine the true nature of Gandalf's power. Not merely what magic he could wield, but what he was, why he came to Middle-earth, and the burden of restraint he carried throughout the ages. To understand Gandalf's power, we must first understand what he is. Gandalf is not a man who learned magic. He is not even mortal. He is Olorin, a Maya, one of the angelic spirits created by Eru Ilúvatar before the world began. In Tolkien's cosmology, the Maiar served the Valar, the godlike powers who shaped Arda itself. Olorin dwelt in the gardens of Lorien in Valinor, where he learned wisdom and compassion from Nienna, the Vala of mercy and grief. When Sauron rose again in the Third Age, the Valar convened. They would not intervene directly. Middle-earth was meant for the children of Ilúvatar, elves and men, to shape and defend. But they would send emissaries. 5 Maiar were chosen, and sent across the sea as the Astari, the wizards, clothed in the bodies of old men, their memories dimmed, their powers constrained. Olorin was reluctant. He feared Sauron's power and doubted his own strength. But Manwë, Lord of the Valar, commanded him, "For that reason, all the more you must go." And so Olorin became Gandalf, Mithrandir, the Grey Pilgrim, last to arrive in Middle-earth, and least assuming in appearance. Upon his arrival, Círdan the Shipwright, one of the oldest elves in Middle-earth, recognized something in Gandalf that others had missed. He entrusted him with Narya, the Ring of Fire, one of the 3 elven rings. Círdan said, "Take this ring, for your labors will be heavy, but it will support you in the weariness you have taken upon yourself. For this is the Ring of Fire, and with it you may rekindle hearts in a world that grows chill." This gift was kept secret, even from Saruman, who coveted such power, and it was this hidden strength, this quiet fire, that would define Gandalf's presence in the war against Sauron. Gandalf's power operates on 3 distinct levels: spiritual, magical, and symbolic. First, his spiritual nature. As a Maya, Gandalf exists on a plane beyond mortal comprehension. He perceives things others cannot. In Moria, he senses the presence of the Balrog before it reveals itself. At Weathertop, he confronts all 9 Nazgûl alone and drives them away with fire and light so brilliant that Frodo and Aragorn see it blazing on the horizon miles away. Gandalf later reflects, "I was hard put to it indeed. Such light and flame cannot have been seen on Weathertop since the war beacons of old." He possesses foresight, not perfect knowledge of the future, but insight into the threads of fate. He knows the hobbits have a role to play. He knows Gollum's part is not yet finished, declaring to Frodo, "My heart tells me that he has some part to play yet, for good or ill, before the end." This intuition proves vital. Without Gollum, Frodo would have failed at Mount Doom. Gandalf is also a telepath. He can read thoughts and communicate mind to mind with others. When Frodo awakens in Rivendell, Gandalf admits, "You have talked long in your sleep, and it has not been hard for me to read your mind and memory." He converses silently with Galadriel, Elrond, and Celeborn during their journey home, and he maintains a psychic bond with Shadowfax, summoning the Great Horse across vast distances. Second, his magical abilities. Gandalf's most prominent power is over fire and light. Narya amplifies this, but even without it, he wields these elements with precision. He lights campfires in soaking rain. He casts flaming pine cones at wargs. He illuminates dark passages and blinds enemies with bursts of radiance. Against creatures of shadow, Balrogs, Nazgûl, orcs, light becomes his weapon. But Gandalf's magic extends far beyond flame. He knows over 200 spells for opening doors, and demonstrates mastery of sealing them as well. In Moria, he speaks words of power to hold a door shut against the Balrog, the walls trembling from the opposing forces. He can alter his appearance, seeming taller and more terrible when needed. He strikes Grima Wormtongue voiceless in Edoras with a gesture, and when confronting Saruman at Orthanc, he breaks Saruman's staff with words alone. Saruman, your staff is broken. This ability to command through speech, what Tolkien calls words of power, is one of Gandalf's most formidable yet exhausting abilities. It channels authority itself, bending reality through will and divine right. Third, his symbolic power, the power of presence. Narya's true gift is not destruction, but inspiration. Círdan said it would rekindle hearts in a world that grows chill, and this proves more valuable than any spell. Wherever Gandalf walks, courage follows. When he falls in Moria, the Fellowship nearly despairs. Aragorn must rally them by force of will alone. When he returns, hope returns with him. Gandalf commands not through fear or domination, but through wisdom and moral clarity. He speaks, and people listen, not because they must, but because they recognize truth. This is why Theoden heeds him, why the people of Gondor take heart at his presence, why even Denethor, in his madness, cannot fully dismiss him. After his battle with the Balrog, Gandalf describes what happened next. Then darkness took me, and I strayed out of thought and time. I wandered far on roads I will not tell. Naked I was sent back, for a brief time, until my task is done. He returns not merely healed, but transformed. No longer Gandalf the Grey, he is now Gandalf the White, Saruman as he should have been. This is not simply a power upgrade, it is a promotion in authority and purpose. Tolkien himself explained, Gandalf sacrificed himself, was accepted, and enhanced, and returned. When he speaks, he commands attention. The old Gandalf could not have dealt so with Theoden, nor with Saruman. Gandalf the White possesses greater command over his powers, but more importantly, greater foresight. He tells Gimli, I can see many things far off, but many things that are close at hand I cannot see. He hears the gathered rumor of all lands, the springing and the dying, the song and the weeping, and the slow, everlasting groan of overburdened stone. He is more in tune with the music of the Ainur, the fundamental song that shaped creation itself. This allows him to move with decisive certainty. In barely a week after his return, he heals Theoden, rallies Rohan, confronts Saruman, saves Faramir twice, faces the Witch King, and organizes the defense of Gondor. He no longer doubts. He knows. Yet even now, he remains constrained. He tells Gimli, I am very dangerous, more dangerous than anything you will ever meet, unless you are brought alive before the seat of the Dark Lord. But he operates, as Tolkien writes, through others, intervening directly only when the physical powers of the enemy are too great for the goodwill of the opposers. This brings us to the heart of Gandalf's nature, his self-imposed limits. The Valar sent the Astari with explicit restrictions. They were not to dominate the free peoples or rule them through power. They were to guide, encourage, and inspire, not conquer evil on behalf of others. Gandalf took this charge more seriously than any of his order. This is why he refuses the One Ring when Frodo offers it. He knows what he would become. Through me, it would wield a power too great and terrible to imagine. Even in righteousness, domination corrupts. This is why he so rarely uses his full strength, even when lives hang in the balance. Every act of overt power risks overshadowing the agency of those he was sent to serve. When he does intervene, driving back the Nazgûl to save Faramir, standing against the Witch King at the gates of Minas Tirith, it is because no one else could, and only for as long as necessary. Gandalf's greatest power, then, is not what he can do, but what he chooses not to do. His wisdom lies in knowing when to act and when to step back. His strength is measured not in spells cast or enemies destroyed, but in hearts rekindled, courage restored, and hope preserved. In the end, Gandalf succeeds not by defeating Sauron himself, but by ensuring that others can. He places his faith in a halfling with no power, no magic, no strength, only a good heart and an impossible burden. And that faith proves enough. After the ring is destroyed and Sauron falls, Gandalf does not claim victory or seek reward. He guides the hobbits home, sees his work complete, and when the time comes, sails into the west with the elves, his task finished at last. Tolkien once wrote that Gandalf embodies the angelic emissary, powerful beyond mortal comprehension, yet humble enough to walk among mortals as a friend. His power was never the point. His purpose was. So we return to that moment in Moria, an old man facing a demon of the ancient world. Not because he sought glory, not because he had no choice, but because behind him stood those he loved, and before him stood evil that must not pass. That is the true power of Gandalf. But here's the question Tolkien left us with. If Gandalf had used his full power from the beginning, if he had fought Sauron openly as a Maya unbound, would Middle-earth have been saved? Or would it have been ruled by another?